Just see that I understand how this is working. Okay, perfect. Hi everyone, my name is Susanna Heli. Do you hear me? Good, good, perfect. I'm from Sweden and I'm a physiotherapist working with birth and pregnancy and psychosomatics together with midwife Lisa Svensson. We have the pleasure to both educate healthcare staff, midwives, doctors, assisting nurses, and doulas as well, and also birth preparation for becoming parents. Because as my previous speakers talk a lot, it's about confidence and how can we make the becoming parents confident and how can we also give them confidence when they don't have it. So we are really focusing on this word, but also the fact that we in Sweden can see that confidence comes sometimes from an experience, a lived experience of birth that in the end was worth it. So that is where the midwife and of course the assisting nurses comes into place, that how this method came to me. This book, Confident Birth, was first published in Sweden. It was from my own birth experience, because the method takes its first step that fear maybe can be a normal emotion. Fear is not always negative, it's an emotion. All humans have fear, and we also have confidence. So we maybe need to learn how to deal with them and how to understand what can we do to change it, both for the birthing woman, for the staff, seeing, recognizing, and for the partner. We forget the partners. They are also there in the birthing room. They can also be scared or give confidence to the birthing woman. So the puzzle piece we work with, and me as a physiotherapist, Lisa as a midwife, it is this: how can we go from fear, stress, anxiety, confusion, back to confidence? Not just, okay, here is this and here is that. How can we actually actively change this? So we are today working with a birth-specific care model that is focusing on, in the birthing room, what can we do? The how, not just this is. So we take our first step in this, that for me, what midwifery is. I'm sure I'm going to be a midwife before I die. I just had to become a physiotherapist first to be able to explain this. I said, I'm going to work as a midwife before I go away from this life. So I'm looking forward for this. But for me, the midwife, the midwifery, the uniqueness of this art, because it's an art, it is that the normal, healthy birth process needs to be protected. It needs to be fully allowed to first function. And then its two legs would take care and protect the parts that doesn't work. But the big part, thankfully, is the normal functioning part. You agree? So this is the hard part in this era, I think, now when we see how the medical interventions, the medicalization of birth is taking over more and more. At the same time, we need that part. So Michel Audin yesterday, I had the pleasure of meeting this man, 87 years old, still talking about birth with passion. I was like, wow, that's me. I want to be that when I'm 87. But he was also talking about this, how can we protect this ability and not allow this to go away also in evolution? That we also need to protect the reasons why C-sections maybe isn't the best solution, both for fear, as we talked, but also for the ability to give birth. So there's a balance going on here, and midwives are exactly the piece that's necessary and needed to protect this. So we know, the body knows how to give birth. Since 30,000 years, it's done this exactly like this. It's in there. We know this and we have it inside. So the method and the book and the teaching Lisa and I do is focusing on how can we maximize this for the woman? How can we allow the ability to, first of all, be accessible for the woman, and then, of course, help the few times something actually goes wrong. Stress and fear is one of the biggest, strongest blockers of this ability. Why? Evolutionary, fear is an emotion telling the body there can or there is danger. If you think about Stone Age, evolution, it wasn't so smart to give birth if there was danger. So it's important. The body does its job. It mobilizes. The stress system comes, takes away the oxytocin, tunnel vision. Everything is prepared to protect ourselves, to protect the baby, because we're not supposed to birth if it's dangerous. And we can sit here and talk about Stone Age, bears, war, but actually 2017, women still give birth in wars when they're fleeing from somewhere, in the forest or wherever they are on this planet, so they still need the emotion, fear, telling them it's not safe. We're not supposed to birth now. Pelvic floor is lifting, muscles are tensing. This is a no, a physiological no. But today, in Sweden, we have done a lot of research that even if it's safer than ever to give birth, the feeling of fear is rising. So it's no longer the threat outside, but the body is too old. It does its job thinking that there can be a threat, protecting us, not allowing the body's ability to birth come out. But why are women scared today? What is it that we're afraid of? It can be, as the previous speaker said, a negative experience, the women we can identify. It can be many different things. But for me, I wasn't afraid at all. This is 20 years ago. My son is, I always say that, it's so strange they get so tall, you know, so big, these beautiful babies. But I wasn't afraid at all. My mother has beautiful birth stories. She looks like an angel on a movie when she's giving birth. And so this was what I had in my body. All women have done this before me. I chose my midwife. I trusted the process. Still, 2:30 in the night, I woke up for my first contraction, sat in the bed and felt, shit, what is this? You know, this was not my plan. If the body now is so natural, why this, no, this does not work for me. I don't want this. And I was starting to move around in the house. You recognize this body language, don't you, in contractions? My poor partner tried to soothe me and was like, don't touch me, don't touch me. He calls the midwife because he understands I can't reach her. She says, put the phone in her ear. And I'm like, I can't talk to anyone, I'm birthing here, you know. But he just pressed the phone in my ear and I hear her, hello, you have two choices, Susanna. Either you keep on doing what you're doing now and you're gonna have a hard time, or you listen to me. I was like, okay. And she, in that second, didn't explain anything. She started to change my breathing. I didn't know that I was in contractions, but you all recognize this body language. So she said, soften your breathing. Even slower. There you go. Even slower. Totally silent. Through the whole contraction, she guided me. And I landed on my feet, from chaos to my feet. And then she said, in the next contraction, get heavy. I was like, you're crazy. Heavy in this intensity, no way. But I did it. And from there, I came back. I remember it, even if it's 20 years ago, a feeling of coming back to my body, feeling my body, and suddenly having connection with the ability I thought it had, but I needed her to get there. She was my bridge, my lighthouse, my guide, and then she told my partner, keep track of her breathing, make sure she's heavy in every contraction. Okay. So we hang up, and of course birth gets stronger and stronger, and the breathing came, and he said, slow your breathing. Tension came, get heavy. So with the help of him, I kept the focus on where to go. It didn't make birth easy. It didn't take away pain, but it helped me not to work against it, and instead work with it, with the help of these simple tools. So for me, the fear came from pain. I was totally unprepared to handle pain. I had taken painkillers every time I had headache. I went to the doctor if I had pain in my body and say, solve this, you know. And from there to go to trust, it's quite a far bit, you know. So here the midwife and the partner became very important puzzle pieces, because it was on the other side of birth I understood why I gave birth, not in birth. So as a physiotherapist, I also understood that the emotion fear simply tells the body we're not supposed to give birth now. It doesn't matter if it's not a bear in the hallways or a real threat, it just responds, creating a negative physiological circle where it will take over, because surviving is the human's most strongest and most important mechanism. So it will rule and take over birth. Women giving birth there, in this feeling, will think this was birth. But this is birth in stress and fear, not the same thing. I got the help to go to the other side. Because if you look at fear as the physiological, evolutionary, no, it's not safe to give birth, of course the body has a plan of a yes as well, connected to confidence. Because what has this emotion? It looks, it scans the environment, there's no threat. Okay, now we go. It releases the inner ability, because now I will survive, the baby will survive, and we're safe. And trust is the key to this. Which hormone is it that takes care of birth? Oxytocin. And if you look at Kerstin Nudens Moberg, a Swedish, very, very beautiful, amazing woman who done research about oxytocin. Oxytocin is our peace and calm hormone. Everything that is nice, eating good food, massages, hot baths, making love, getting touch, whatever, and giving birth. And this is the hormone the body chose during the 30,000 years. Why? Because we're supposed to give birth when we're feeling safe. This is like the evolutionary plan. And also oxytocin has a longer plan, because it doesn't just take care of birth. What is it that initiates breastfeeding? Oxytocin. Bonding, oxytocin. Healing of the flesh, oxytocin. So we have so many good spirals that are awakened by oxytocin. So this is what the method is focusing on. It is to help and see what will open the tap of oxytocin, the woman's own oxytocin, long before we add the drip of oxytocin. Because this is something she has. Her body doesn't need to learn oxytocin. It needs to release it, open it, and allow it. And oxytocin also takes away the struggle of the brain, the cognitive part that we know doesn't help. So how do we feel when we were tired? I know we're close to lunch now. So how does the brain become when it actually wants to rest? It gets like tired, doesn't it? You want to just sit or rest. And in birth, this is something good, because then the woman can eat, sleep. You know, you've all seen how strange it is that in a pushing phase, a woman sleeps in between contractions. It's crazy, isn't it? But so possible if the body is in touch with the peace and calm system. So this is what we train both with the staff to together evaluate what can we do to allow and release the oxytocin of the woman in this active care, the care model, the support, that is the first part. And also in the preparation classes to help the partner to really step into the role of, if the relationship is good, or another support person to become the source of confidence. We have our own line, and every woman will be in different places on this line in her birth experience. So if you look at confidence on one side and fear on the other side, we can quite quickly read where she is. If she's in confidence, if she's in fear. And when we have read this and seen this, the question will be what to do. If she is expressing fear, stress, anxiety, regardless if she was recognized as fearful before or after or during, it's about how can we take her from fear to confidence. And this is so possible, and it's so important to become this lighthouse. The science in Norway with the women who are asking for humanitarian C-section, you say the same word here, yeah, shows that they have a different way of handling it. They say, okay, we don't argue about this now, but I believe that you will birth as a midwife. I believe you can birth, and I'm more interested in who you are and why you're scared. And this is how they are functioning with the fear, that she gets the help to access her confidence through this. So the confident birth method uses simply, because in birth, in this intense physical hours, words is not so important anymore. Do you agree? The birthing woman doesn't talk in active birth, so we need to go into that phase or that direction that she's in. And what we use is the body language. How is the body language telling where she is? If you look at breathing, our first tool, how do we breathe when we're afraid? How is the breathing telling, I'm afraid, I'm scared, I'm stressed? I already demonstrated this, or hyperventilation, or holding my breath. So how do we breathe in confidence? Listen to you now. Nobody's scared in here, I think. Slowly, but yes, and there's one factor that's the only factor that is interesting, that it's silent. Nobody goes home and sits in the sofa. It doesn't happen. It's very uncomfortable. So this is our first exercise we do. We explore breathing, that for the woman to have the help support to keep the breathing slow and silent through the whole contraction. The second tool is the body, the language of the muscles. Fight or flight. I'm afraid. And what is the opposite to this? Is capitulation, to allow, to be heavy. And by this, you tell the body it's safe to allow the baby to pass. And the same with the sound. Here we have the neocortex. The sound helps the neocortex to calm down, for the thoughts of worrying, controlling, thinking to lower, and the voice and the sound takes over. And the mind, of course. Which word do a woman in fear and stress say? No, 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 she's saying no, don't want this. And what is the opposite? Is to say yes. And of course this can feel strange, but not for the woman. When she's there and she tries, she will feel it's good or it doesn't work for me. So basic principles for giving support is also one of the parts in the method. How can we use the body language, our own bodies, both as caregivers and as partner? So we explore in our classes the touch, the rhythm, the direction. How can the closeness of the partner activate oxytocin without us even controlling it? And all these factors will create the state of birth. Birth is not a doing. It's a state that allows birth to occur. And this state is when women get the tools to understand how she can create this state, it gives positive control. It gives her something that she can focus on. And we work with that. The only thing for sure we know in birth is that there's going to be contractions. We don't know how many, how long, and how they're going to feel, but we know that each and every contraction is what the birthing woman and the partner can focus on to handle. So confident birth works for together, allowing and empowering women to understand they already know how to give birth, but also get the tools to handle the challenges of pain or time or whatever. And this creates a positive and more empowering birth experience. So the last word, I'm just going to say that the 4th of March on Pinter Martin, where I have my book, we're going to have a workshop lecture. If some of you are interested in coming and exploring and together sharing these tools of support with the focus of the physiological systems in birth, you're more than welcome. I will also be outside by a table where you registered with some books that I brought with me. So come and talk to me and discuss this very important topic. Thank you very much.